demand generation as a marketing strategy is not going to work. You have to go in and say, if you look at lead generation, can you really trust digital? Like, is digital spend going to get you there?
Welcome, builders, to How Would You Build It? The podcast that dives deep into the dynamic world of startups and product creation right here in South Africa and Africa. This show is more than just interviews. Every week, we sit down with the brilliant minds to provide a masterclass for building digital products amidst the challenges and opportunities unique to our continent. From seasoned founders to dynamic product managers, we uncover the unique stories and strategies behind some of the most innovative digital products being built. So for all the aspiring founders and product builders out there, you'll discover that each episode is a wealth of practical wisdom and local and actionable insights. Make sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to our podcasts and connect with us on social media for even more content. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, builders, to another episode of How Would You Build It? It's episode 60. I'm going to go with 2. And today I've got Ean Barnard. He is the head of brand and marketing at Finch Technologies. Ean, thanks for joining. How Would You Build It? How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, thanks. Feels like we just started talking, eh?
Yeah, fake it till you make it, eh?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Thanks for making some time out of your very busy schedule. And once again, congrats with the shift in your role.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, challenge accepted. For the listeners, we were just chatting about my new role and building South African products. It's quite a challenge, and that's the point of why we do what we do here and How Would You Build It, is to hear the stories of people trying to do this in South Africa with the challenges that we are faced uniquely here, and to not just relay what's been happening overseas. Let's have South African conversations. So really excited to talk to Ian because he's working for a fintech company. And he's having to build out the brand and marketing, and I think in this climate that we're living in right now, where funding is still hard to get, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon with the economic climate that we're in. People are really doubling down on their go-to-market strategies. They're really having to make sure that their sales and marketing teams are on it and are getting sales through the door. You're not going to fund your way into success in this current climate, whether you're in America or as in South Africa. It's always been this case. So I'm really keen to chat to you about that. But before we go into an understanding, doing brand and marketing for a SaaS company in South Africa, can you just tell us what you're doing at Finch Technologies?
Yeah, sure. You can call it fintech as well. A lot of people like to call us fintech because it's so close to Finch Technologies. So we started off with also another fin, just fintech.coza back in 2015, which was kind of one of your first independent marketplaces in SA to compare financial products, and then also for you to get passed on to the partner directly. Obviously, you've had kind of giants like Hippo in the space for a long time, but that was very quote-based. And I would say the system or the product and how it was built from a comparison perspective was still very much in the hands of the consumer to take a decision forward. And FinTech started with trying to complete the onboarding journey as far as possible. And that's really like one of the key things to highlight for where I'm going with this. We did pretty well with the marketplace. We bought Funding Hub, first took over management in 2019, and then we bought Funding Hub in 2020. That is a business finance marketplace. Like mostly, there are obviously some kind of VAPs and all of that included, but Funding Hub was kind of our transition from just consumer to business as well, and catering for the SMEs in the country. And yeah, it was, I would say, within a year or two, we found like just more and more the pressures of COVID, with lenders tightening their books, more and more this issue of onboarding became an issue where you've got drop-off rates. Got a dog here at the window, excuse any barking.
I've also got a dog here at the window, dude.
So our major, we just decided this major issue of drop-off rates was impacting businesses all around. And
so can you just kind of explain that? Sorry. So when you're talking about onboarding and marketplaces, can you just kind of explain that, before you dive into that realization of the drop-off rates? What were you onboarding for? What was the problem that you guys are solving for? You compared yourself to Hippo, for example.
Yeah, sure. So you would have someone looking for a loan, looking for insurance product, wanting to compare credit cards, In businesses, you would have the same scenario playing out, business looking for different types of funding, whether that's a digital channel, word of mouth, whatever happens, you land on FinTech, you land on Funding Hub, like you would land on Hippo. You start off with your basic details, you go into your next step asking for more details, your, let's say, close to sensitive details in some cases, specifying which products you're looking for, and then you would usually end up with a list of options that matches that. So when we talk about a marketplace, in this sense, it's shopping for a financial product that best suits your needs.
Okay.
The issue with your kind of traditional platform is that you have a lot of control that you leave in the hands of the consumer, and you also have to acknowledge financial literacy, understanding products, and all of those issues. So the first thing we introduced was saying, okay, we're going to match you with the best product, not just a list of 10 products and how they rate in terms of cost structures or quotes, what's the cheapest quote, what is the details of it. But looking at this partner that you now see in front of you, this partner has actually, according to their criteria, said, we are willing to fund you, or we're willing to provide a product. And the only thing theoretically that should be left is signing on the dotted
Okay.
line.
So is this for businesses or individuals?
Both. That's
Okay.
kind of that's where we had a lot of our learnings develop. When it came to the South African landscape, you're looking at the end users here, you're looking at the population, both from a consumer and a business perspective. So that was all good in theory until you obviously get to the financial product itself, to the disbursement of that product and the requirements. So, I mean, all of us have gone through this. We all know the hassle of getting a financial product or getting a cell phone contract, getting any type of funding. It is a massive headache because you've got tons of weird legacy systems integrated with semi-automated, semi-improved systems. And you've got a lot of people in the fintech space obviously wanting to innovate. The biggest leaps have been in the payment space. The payment space has got a huge amount of momentum, velocity happening. But you've got other places that are catching up, and that's where we're sitting when we're saying that the issue is in onboarding, verification, and getting someone their financial product actually dispersed, not just theoretically. You can't just go and say 3 clicks from getting a product in theory and then not eventually start doing something around it, which is what we were saying. We were saying, like, follow our 3-click process. And we were able to do most of the verification, but it didn't change the fact that the financial product provider didn't have the system in place to integrate with that. They weren't able to automate affordability assessments. They weren't able to automate kind of all of your transactional data that you need to make a decision, fraud checks, criminal checks, like all of these checks and balances that they've got analysts working on. I would say that the only thing that's really been automated up until like recently, the past few years, successfully was credit checks or credit bureaus. That was done pretty well. But the rest, like your KYC, your FICA processes have always been an issue. Most of us need to go and download bank statements and upload them for
such a pain.
Most things that you'll do, like whether it's a home loan, whether it's a cell phone contract. So many examples. I mean, all of us kind of know that. So yeah, that's I'm spending some time on that just to mention that's where we kind of started pivoting into Finch. We started in 2020. We then focused on a product called Gather, and Gather, in the name, gathering information, gathering everything you need to complete a financial product, and actually disperse it in, like, let's call it 3 clicks or whatever. That was 2020. COVID kind of forced us into that. All the lenders were tightening their purse strings, insurance providers, all of them. And we were just like, well, FinTech's not going to be busy enough. Funding Up's not going to be busy enough. So let's start building Gather. And yeah, we're proud to say that we are, like you mentioned now, going to market without funding, VCs, all of these things. Factoring sits very close to our hearts. We've always been on a pursuit of profitability versus taking in funding from the outside. So we built FinCheck, became profitable, bought Funding Hub, became profitable, started Gather, and yeah, past 2 years have been awesome. We have started hitting profitability on and off over the past couple of months. And yeah, revenue growth has just been astounding. So that's awesome to see. And I think we've got about 60 odd end users in the market right now. Our clients right now are kind of a combination between direct and reseller clients. So
Okay.
you've got an epic proof of concept both ways. And we just started with the most obvious piece. We started with Gather, and it's kicked off with bank statement collection, automating that process. So as someone would apply for a product, automate the bank statement collection piece. So either through a bank login or through uploading their statements, and then us reading all of the data in the back end and returning a summary to them and to the financial product provider. So that was kind of
And
the
so if I understand it, then once let's say if I understand it correctly, you've done your 3 clicks and I have my bank linked to your platform. Whenever I need a 3-month statement to be generated, because you need that if you want to apply for anything at any point in time, you can easily just go on, plug it in, connect it, and say, well, there's my latest statement.
Yeah. I mean, you could build a interface like that to do that, but we obviously build it as part of the application process for clients, or they plug it into the system at least. Some of our clients prefer it in the back end, so you never see it. It functions differently for different users. You know, someone just needs the authentication of the user to complete it in their back end. Some people need it to happen online as they're doing application. One of our clients is MTN, for example, through TransUnion. So our partnership with TransUnion there is with MTN, and you there have a process in store, for example. So if you're doing a self-fund contract, you would go on the iPad, it launches the browser, they complete the details, their documents get collected or their transactions get read, depending on if they go online or upload. And yeah, that's just one part of it. You know, like there's that piece, there's the credit bureau piece, there's doing fraud checks, criminal checks, there is your ID verification processes. So yeah, we usually try and sum it up as KYC and fee code verification and onboarding and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to spend more time on the product because
yeah. Sorry, I love talking product, as you would know.
Yeah.
So, but that's cool. Okay, so that's quite interesting because you just use the term blah blah blah, right? And I'm going to play on that for a second, because as a brand and marketing sort of lead, you can't be blah blah blah. You need to be able to get the understanding out to the world. So how are you going about doing that? I mean, it sounds like you guys pivoted a few times and finding it, and that isn't unusual, right, for startups and companies, is to go to market, realize, hold on, we need to move this direction, and now you have to change your brand strategy. So can you just kind of tell us about that story and how things are going?
Yeah, sure. We went blah blah blah.
And was it a success?
No, look, we felt like we were sinking and swimming at the same time at times. So look, the first shift for us was going from a direct to consumer and direct to business, but you know, a SME being one of our clients, you still got kind of quantity volume there functioning. So we went from that to very much, you know, B2B. It's a business to business, it's an enterprise type of sale. So we had 2 issues there. The one was, how do we position ourselves, just to understand ourselves? Like, we needed clarity on ourselves. And then also obviously that needed to filter through on how we communicate and how we position ourselves to the clients, or you know, the potential clients. So we've always been big fans of storytelling and messaging. We like to use the kind of story brand methodology. It's a very useful framework that I would recommend anyone. Some of it is
reading the book.
Yeah, so very successful platform. And I think what I like the most is just Donald Miller's levels of clarity that he just brings with every sentence. So we've always enjoyed that. I think that,
Can you just elaborate on what does he mean by that? I'm not there in the book yet.
yeah. So, I mean, story brand uses the story structure, like age-old story structure. You've got something called the hero's journey that comes out of literature that has been built into this framework, and he has built a very successful platform around it. He started off just with brand messaging. He built a lot of things and wrote a lot of things, but right now his platform has become business made simple. And a lot of the things that he offers within that is your kind of brand messaging, your marketing strategy, business strategy. So it's really key. He's kind of pivoted into general business growth and not just brand.
Okay.
But the story brand is still a great starting point for any company. There are a couple of free resources that can get a little bit tricky, like obviously it is a paid platform now. It's not, a lot of things are not free, but for anyone wanting to go on Amazon or wherever else or Audible, you can just download the book. I think it's called How to Build a Story Brand. Or
Yeah, building a story brand.
Yeah. And what it does is it just helps you to say, okay, this is my brand, this is who we are. Let's filter it through this framework, through this story structure, and reposition ourselves. Who is our hero that we are pursuing? We are the guide. This is our hero. This is their problem. This is like the challenges they are facing, the decisions they need to make. How are we going to help them through this critical point where they need to make a decision? What is the plan to actually get through it? What is that positive or negative outcome that they're looking at? So that's just very, very, very high level, but it's a super, super helpful tool. Something that's definitely freely available if someone wants to go and look for that resource. And that was our kind of first challenge, was saying, okay, we used to be FinTech, but then we were FinTech running Funding Hub. And then we were FinTech and Funding Hub wanting to both gather. Fortunately, the business was registered as Finch Technologies back in 2015. And we were just saying, listen, it's time to step into that role. Being Finch Technologies, we are a technology group. In this instance, we have fintech as a service. So if you go into software as a service, you go one step down, kind of from a granular perspective. We're looking at fintech as a service. So that's where we are. We're Finch Technologies, we're fintech as a service, and we have got technology products. And we needed to figure that piece out. Because otherwise, you're going to struggle to communicate, right? You're not going to know, like, are we hunting FinTech here, Funding Hub there, Gather there?
No, it sounds like a mess.
Yeah. So you need to go through that process. It takes a bit of effort from everyone. You need to be kind of invested in the process. A couple of workshops that you go through. You use a tool like Rebrand, and you go through that exercise. And then you need to start implementing the changes. You need to obviously go and update your online real estate, like websites. Do you have a website for each? Is the right one pointing through the right one? What does your LinkedIn say, for example? And these are basic things, but they very quickly become a ton of loose ends, and people hold context with you over the years. So now I need to start pulling everyone in and just start this announcement journey. You start kind of initiating brand awareness around who are we as a group.
I want to double down on those workshops that you spoke about, because even myself, where I am now at Everlytic, we're going through a very similar exercise. It's about trying to understand who we are, and it's actually quite a challenge. It's not as straightforward, because it's so easy to kind of be stuck in your own, this is what we believe we are. And these workshops that one could hold can slowly open you up to think about, but hold on, are we looking at this correctly? Because what we started doing is we started opening up the conversation to more people, just to kind of get to see internally what we thought we were to where we want to be. So that's been a learning that I've been going through in recent times. But do you have any sort of tips on that workshop framework that anybody can do to say, hold on, let's take a step back and understand who we are before we go and start communicating to the world?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I would say to that is one shouldn't confuse the business case and the consumer's pain points. So your business is obviously there to solve a pain point for customers. That's kind of the core what you're doing, right? So you kind of saying someone has got a pain point. I've always thought I had a solution to that, or I'm passionate about it, or whatever your story is, wherever it started. And that's a little bit separate to the brand message and the brand that you're building. So that's the first thing that gets confused in these workshops. Like people are trying to have like all of these conversations in the same room, and that can become very confusing. So I would first of all separate the conversation of your, let's say, what is your value proposition? What is your unique selling point? So, like as a company, this is our product, our solution. This is what we're doing. This is how we're getting it to market in terms of normal channels, our distribution. These are our client types. And you can do a basic summary like that. Where the brand messaging differs is to say, and once again, this is not brand identity. This is not how we look, but you want both of those two pieces to flow out of the brand message. You want it to like resonate with that brand message. So the brand message exercise or workshop is something where you kind of step into the room and say, we are going to define our story. And you want to look at first you're going to step into the room and look at it from a zoomed out lens, like you need to zoom out again and again.
10,000 feet. Yeah.
Because you can imagine now you obviously you can very easily probably draw like 10 buyer personas for any company. If you go and sit in that company, you can very quickly map out a ton of buyer personas. And the idea of the brand message exercise is to define it as one. So it can feel very broad. It can feel abstract at times, but it's better to get started and start defining a broad statement and kind of move through the steps and then come back and say, this is not specific enough, like our broader audience. So yeah, there are obviously a lot of examples out there, people who say it better than I guess, but like let's use a typical example that people obviously bring to mind easily, something like Nike. Nike could have gone and defined the story for each of their type of clients. And that you can just imagine like that has probably like thousands, if not millions of client types. But you have to go and say at the core of it, it's someone that wants to take action. It's someone that wants to dream and realize that aspiration or go and pursue that. And you leave it at that to start off with. And you go into the next step and you say, okay, what is their core challenge? Like, first of all, what are they aspiring to do and what is preventing them from doing that? And you just go and put the basic things. And the idea here is not to compete, it's not to say, yeah, but Adidas is going to have the same and Asics is going to say the same thing. Like, you just need to go through this exercise and put something down. Because as soon as you have it down, I promise you, if you have like more than 2 or 3 people in the room already, it's good, like questioning is going to come in, like, yeah, but is it really that?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so you just go through the motion and you really want to pinpoint your story so that you can, when you position yourself as a guide, you need to resonate with that person, what they are dreaming about, what they want to aspire in life, and what is preventing them. You need to acknowledge that in your messaging. And that is really like, for us, we went through this a lot. Like you have multiple sessions and then over time you kind of update it. But we got to this point where we're saying at the heart of it, we want to drive financial access and inclusivity. And a lot of people don't have that. But the only way we can really make it feasible is by reducing the cost of capital. And if we can reduce the cost of capital by improving and bringing more efficient systems and technology, hopefully we can drive a mission and a message that, hey, institution, it's time to pass that saving on to the consumer. Are you catering for all markets that need products? And it's business is business. So not everyone is going to want to do that, and things need to make sense. From financially, it needs to make sense. We've gone through that journey, like as an example, and we had to go and then roll that out. And suddenly you're selling enterprise things. You're selling to people who are locked into legacy systems. So your brand awareness journey looks very different. You're not going full on into your digital marketing spend like you would with consumers, because the people, the decisions makers are not just scrolling on Instagram. They're not just on Facebook Marketplace. They're not on TikTok. Yes, they spend some time there. Some of them do, some of them don't. But some of them just go to good old-fashioned shows or like a sales convention or things like this. Rolling that message out becomes a very interesting exercise because you've got a highly technical sale. You've got a bit of a confusing group structure for anyone that's new and coming along. And so you just need to continuously reiterate the message. We are Finch. This is Gather. This is our cornerstone product. We are Finch. Look at what our funding team is doing. We are Finch. These are the humans behind Finch. Look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
And from a go-to-market perspective, we just very quickly realized, demand generation for this type of sale it's the demand generation as a marketing strategy is not going to work. You have to go in and say, if you look at lead generation, can you really trust digital? Like, is digital spend going to get you there?
But isn't that the state of the nation at the moment? Because I really feel like I was in a meeting recently where we touched on the same topic, which is it's a very different world we live in now. Like you just said, and also you're at the mercy of algorithms and paid advertising on these social media platforms, right? So if they force you into paying, if you're not telling a good message, if you're not getting the right thing, and you've got an algorithm against you as well. So it's a very different way now to go to market, right? It's not. It just feels very different. There's a lot of noise out there, and it's easy to scroll off something and an algorithm to change what you're going to see or not see. And so it's more of a personalized kind of approach that one needs to take or a company needs to take, which is, like you just said, we are Finch, this is what we do. But then how do you get that message across and at scale? Because we've been relying on this algorithms and digital marketing for so many years now.
So let's say at scale is, I would say, the first question mark. It's not at scale, it's at scale question mark. Do you need to roll it out at scale? Is that actually your business?
I see.
I'm a big believer in our current context of really like removing the lines between sales and marketing as much as possible, like removing friction points, removing like the silo, and saying we need to follow kind of this flywheel thinking. Like we've got a customer in the middle, so everything we do is customer centric. We have got awareness, we've got engagement, and then we've got your delight kind of circling around the customer, and then we've got marketing, sales, support running around that. So all of the activities outside in the different life cycle stages or phases of the customer go in. And the more you remove the friction, the more you allow everyone to work together. So you've got enablement initiatives where you're just enabling mostly the sales and the support, because the marketing team is usually the driver of this traditionally, because marketing is there to get product to the consumer. Like if you go and look at all these old textbooks from your marketing courses, you'd say like it goes back to that long paragraphs and definitions, but what it really comes down to is the distribution. Like you've got a product, your business built this product, and now it needs to get to that person who wants to use it. So marketing teams need to get their hands dirty and say, okay, how can we remove these friction points? How can we enable the sales teams? How can we enable the support or service customer success teams? Not like, but we design or we build websites or we copyright, we do marketing automation. It's like, get involved with the sales journey, get involved with customer success. Even if your company has not built dedicated marketing teams for those departments, like, if you're a lean company, you're going to market, you are probably one if you're lucky, but let's say you 1 to 2. Both those people need to wear a hat of getting involved, doing whatever they can to understand the true process, because most companies will organically kind of have something that works. They somehow get traction, like you really need to focus on how are we getting traction. And one of our learnings, for example, was we tried lead generation. We took quite a bit into our digital spend, and we did a lot of like cold email campaigns as well to like databases we purchased, and the results are just not really there. And it's interesting, the traction that we got the most was from our business network or referral, from our existing partnerships, our existing relationships. So that's very telling, like that is as a result for us, is after a couple of months of a lot of spend, and you seeing that in your traditional going after what we call target accounts, so doing account-based marketing, and then going after your kind of your digital spend to produce leads, and you're not seeing the results that you want. So it also like takes back to the value of word of mouth and referrals.
I was gonna say, like it's the old adage. It's just word of mouth. It's just been as powerful as it has been 100 years ago, probably.
It works so well. And that's why I said, when it comes to at scale, for me, it's a question mark, because first of all, you need to be findable, right? So I view kind of, if you were going to market, I would view the following as very important. You need to be findable. So you've got a house or somewhere where you live and someone needs to be able to find you, make sure people can find you on Facebook, find you on LinkedIn, find you on Instagram, whatever is relevant, find you online, always find you online. Like skipping that piece is like, even if you just register the domain and have something
just be findable.
So that's very important. Like leave the content marketing, the digital marketing things for later if you don't understand it or feel overwhelmed. Just like do that. Then
but like, sorry, I just want to like, I was in meetings where they were doubling down on like ad spend and keywords and things like that. Are you saying don't focus too much on that and just be findable and work on the relationship type stuff?
I would say as soon as you're able to get someone in and build your basic campaign, do it. But basic being like, so you started off with being findable. Now just at least rank in your town or your relevant audience. So if you're going to set up a Google AdWords campaign, first start with capturing the people who are looking for your brand. Then secondly, start looking for the people and capturing the people that are having search intent for what you're selling. And then go and duplicate that for whatever other digital channel you've got going. So if you've got that for LinkedIn, do the same. If you feel overwhelmed and you're not going to be able to pay someone, like do it like over 3 months. Like put a goal in front of yourself and say, every month I want to launch one campaign, and you take an hour or two a week to figure it out. These tools they vary between being easy to use and get started and then very quickly becoming overwhelming. So
well, that's how I felt. If I try and do it myself, I get overwhelmed quite quickly. And I'm just thinking about, founders or something that feels like, okay, just start small, and then they walk in going, damn.
But it's not going to lead to success. I think that's where the pressure comes from. Like you're not going to, like, maybe you'll get some sales. You'll always get some organic and lead generation coming from like those places. But if we now go and say, okay, be findable, make sure your brand is out there, some kind of basic communication, even if it's just yourself that you're putting out there. Like people want to see people, like time and again with all of our digital assets that we're pushing out across different campaigns between paid and organic. Time and again, if it's a human, it gets engagement. If it's designed, even if it's the best design you've seen in your life, it will be secondary to a very raw piece. Like that's just the reality of it. So if you can get over it and film yourself or take photos of yourself and hey, look at me, I just had a meeting, or look at me sitting in my house or my office, because I can't afford an office. That's my house/office. Like, look at me. I'm like, do you know of anyone that wants a meeting? Like this is what I'm doing. I haven't looked at me. I haven't got a client right now. I need someone.
Do you want to be my client? That's awesome.
People will laugh at that. And I think that probably the most important thing that I've learned recently around digital marketing in particular, because there's a lot of pressure to do digital marketing.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm doubling on. It's like it seems like that's what the answer's been for so long. Maybe it's Gary Vaynerchuk's fault.
Yeah. But okay, so I'll get you the answer on that now, but just my perspective. But just remember the reason for all of this starting was, yes, brand building, like that's one part of it, but you weren't able to get people's details. You weren't able to get someone's phone number and email. But now there are a lot of tools to do that. So obviously doing it volume and scale is hard. and that's why people build out sales teams. But you can go and get those details, and you have control. You can go out and you can start an email conversation with someone and say, I'd love to chat and tell you about my product. Now, yes, we all get them every day and we're tired of a lot of scam emails. But if you put all of your weight behind digital marketing and you have got a technical sale, you're at the mercy of striking the moment perfect and striking that moment perfect for that digital ad to land at the perfect moment of someone being in the looking zone and perfectly understanding the technicality of what you're selling and their need aligning. That's going to be
I
that.
get what you're saying.
From my perspective, at least, you're going to spend a lot of ad money before that hits, and you're at the mercy of that. Versus saying, these are the 10 companies that I feel right now match our use case. I need to get traction. I'm going to market. I've bought my product. And saying, let me start reaching out. And if you then start reaching out, taking care of those people and asking for referrals and then listing your next 10, you just need a 1% conversion rate at the end of the day. Like if you take all of that together, you just need a 1% conversion in each of them and you'll have 10 clients. So if you go and look at the success for digital marketing, the use case is definitely there, but the product needs to be able to sell digitally. Like if you think about what I explained to you earlier, I mean, we've tried to really simplify the message, but I mean, most of the client meetings that we have, it's a technical sell. You do a lot of, not a lot of work, but you need to like help people understand how this actually integrates with what they're doing and how it solves a problem.
You've got to get your story down straight in that simplistic term so that a non-technical person can understand it and then want to take the conversation further.
Yeah. And so there's always a lot of work that you can do in that area. Like you learn, but you know, you can't go and spend thousands on ads just learning. You need to also take it into your own hands and say, okay, what can marketing teams provide sales teams to enable them to make the sale more effectively and more efficiently? What can marketing teams do to enable support teams to look after the current clients better so they get more word of mouth and referrals?
So I just want to, so when we were chatting in the emails and stuff leading up to today's conversation, you said your solution is adopting the flywheel model so that marketing enables both sales and support teams to attract, engage, and delight. Is that in essence what you've just been explaining? Is like a flywheel of making that happen?
Yeah. And I mean, not taking any ownership there, that's a HubSpot methodology. That's built off their inbound marketing. And it's just saying a customer is perpetual. A customer is not a linear sales process that starts as a prospect and ends as a client. You need to understand that customer is continuously cycling through your departments and different people are taking care of them. So make sure that every team has got the right tool in place to look after them, the right collateral is equipped to handle the conversation. And that is something that I feel a small team can more successfully pursue than trying to compete with giants in the digital marketing space. Once again, be professional, be findable, like spend as soon as you can, spend money in your brand. There are so many tools right now that will do it for you. Like that's the one benefit to AI tools is it can do all of the brand identity or corporate identity parts for you. And if you ask it, it will probably tell you like what type of strategies you can follow, how to get things started. But you know, the human touch is people are craving it as always. It's nothing new. I also don't pretend that we are like this, that we're busy with is not the holy grail. I don't think it's the only way. It's just for us, the emphasis needs to be on product marketing. It needs to be on this process that we're following right now, where marketing is a function of sales and support and customer success, enabling them, like making sure the CRM does what it needs to do, making sure that everyone's got the right tools and collateral in place. And if you're a brand that can sell digitally, great, like that's epic. If you can do it at scale, using, I said, we are fintech as a service. You've got creative as a service right now, as a subset of software as a service, which is, I think, Superside. If I remember correctly, the name is Superside. I mean, they grew into about 700 employees in a very short span of time. And they've got like we spoke to their head of marketing to get some ideas and tips from him. And they flourish in digital marketing. And we did exactly what they said. Like I followed his strategies, examples to the book. But you're not getting that result, because what we're selling versus selling someone a creative piece in an ad is like it's something I don't need to tell you anything to help you understand your creative needs as a business, right? Oh yeah, I need design, or yes, I need a website, or yes, I need got enough context around it. So the sell is very easy from a digital perspective. Not easy, but easier. Yeah, so I think both have got a lot of value, but it needs to work for your business and where you're at.
And it goes to the first point that you were making, was go back, take a step back, understand who you are, and start there.
Yeah.
And then you'll understand how you need to go and talk to yourself. And product is exactly the same thing. Eh? It's a very similar kind of process. Who are we? What are we trying to achieve? And who are we trying to achieve it for? So there's a lot of similarities. And that's why I really like what you're saying. And I think my company is also starting to see that with the way the customer is perpetual throughout the business constantly. And the sooner you understand that, the better, that you're always servicing them, right? Once you've got them in. And that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Ian,
I've started seeing that, by the way.
Sorry?
I've started seeing that, by the way. I've actually in the communication and the account management that we've received. I've seen that.
That it's true, right? Of that circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been impressive. Anyway, we've got a hard stop.
Yeah, we said hard stop, but I need to ask 2 or 3 quick questions, fireside questions. First one, very quickly. You can't say the story brand, but what book would you recommend someone read that will help them with their marketing and sales strategies?
No, that's a hard one, because you took my go-to there. So the one book that I've got on my wish list that I'm going to read now, which is a lot of my focus now, is kind of moving into revenue operations as well. So I am needing to read the Sales Acceleration Formula. So if anyone else wants to read that, I can that highly recommend it. That is a book that looks very exciting, that I'm very keen to look at, because you've got people from HubSpot and the likes actually kind of imparting a lot of wisdom from building like very successful software as a service companies.
Nice.
So,
I should probably start a book club, and we can read it together and share notes. Second question is, what advice have you received in your career that you feel like a new person coming into the professional world, if you could go back in time and tell yourself this advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I feel like advice, I'm probably not saying anything new, but advice is so seasonal, right? Like you say the thing now that you would hope you would have listened to when you're younger, and then you never would have listened. Look, the one thing that I think is highly valuable is to kind of not be impatient. So it's a very basic statement to make, but if you think how many of your decisions and non-decisions are made based off wanting to achieve success early in life and quickly, you've got eventually a negative snowball happening, where you do not go into certain things, or certain things that would be great incubators for your path that's ahead of you, because you feel it's going to take too long. And the next moment you've been busy with 5 years of your life anyway. And I think there's a lot of times where we say, shucks, no, 1 year is too long, like a 1-year course, or a graduate program, or a 2 years internship, or whatever you want to call it, like traveling for a year. You feel like that's a long period of time to step away from my current life. but in the meanwhile, it's probably one of the most valuable things you can do. So being impatient with achieving success, because you just want to be busy with what's working now.
And you want to see results now. It's so true. I've seen it with friends and family. They do that. They don't want to, they want to see instant results. And so they don't get into the thing that they should be doing because it's actually be valuable for them, and realize that just get into it. Let the process take place. Like, show up is what I'm referring to it these days. Like, don't worry, just show up and the rest will work. Don't be impatient. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Very quickly, what South African app or product do you use the most? Or is that always your favorite?
South African Apple product.
No, not Apple, just app. Just a
app or product.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, app or product. Yeah. So like an easy equities or something locally made that you are using. We've got to give a shouty outie to the people out there.
Obviously, everyone needs to give a shout out to Eskom's push. But
I haven't only used them for a couple of months now. Let's keep it that way.
I use Easy Equities. I need to give that a shout out. Obviously, their new Thrive program has caused a lot of upset. That seems like so that is always for me. I think so underrated to get ahead with your kind of savings journey. It's for all ages, all age groups, and and then also, like, I have to give a shout out to Discovery, as much as I'm frustrated with them as well. I think from a digital banking perspective and an open banking perspective, they've definitely forced a lot of other people to start stepping up. So I do still get frustrated on the daily with that ecosystem and company. But like all companies, they've got legacy systems in place that also that are hard to bridge and get into kind of this new era of doing things. But those are like the only ones I can think of right now.
That's why I asked the question, and that is exactly why I asked the question. It's like we have, we're in this tech industry and we surrounded by people in tech. We're like, what do we actually use on a day-to-day basis? But I like the Discovery. I think from a banking perspective, their UX and the way they're doing their journeys is a mile ahead of any other app I've seen or used in the banking space. So I like that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot, and I think that's it. It also tells a story of how competitive the landscape is that didn't come to your mind. Just you've got things like Stash app, you've got things like Pineapple, Naked Insurance. You've got all these apps that over time they've really come like into the market super strong. But in the long run, like you've got SnapScan, Zapper, and SnapScan used to be super sexy, hot topic, cool app, and now, like Zapper still doesn't quite feel the same, but they're so robust as a company. They've built such a wonderful product, and what they're doing behind the scenes is awesome. But it goes to show you, like, once you go into tech or into apps, all of these things, you are competing at a global scale. And South Africans realize that. Like, if you want to reach across the border, make it big, you're gonna have to up your game.
Yeah, cross the Limpopo, they say. Cool.
Yeah.
Ian, well, thank you very much for joining How Would You Build It? It was a great conversation. Nice to talk a bit of brand and marketing because we don't do it enough here. So thank you for coming on and sharing your insights. It's been great.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you for having me. I would encourage anyone. There are so many resources online, boot camps that are geared towards helping a startup getting into the market. Go and check out HubSpot's flywheel methodology. Go and check out their CRM. Go and check out StoryBrand. Business Made Simple. I think those are two great tools for anyone to get started with, and will help them go far. So some takeaways for the people sitting here at the end.
Love it. Yeah, exactly. Still tuned in. Cool. Thanks, Ian.